notorious drug lord known for decapitating his victims, is seemingly missing from federal custody. They call him La Barbie. He's not supposed to be released from prison until 2056.
October 30th, 2018. James Whitey Bulger survived 12 hours in federal prison before inmates beat him to death with a padlock.
Bulger's killers were seen on surveillance tape entering his cell around 6 a.m., moments after the cell was unlocked for breakfast. The killers reportedly tried to cut out his tongue and gouge out his eyes.
But Edgar Valdez Villarreal, he cooperated with authorities and disappeared from the prison system entirely. For cartel snitches, prison walls don't end the danger. They concentrate it. So what really happens when the most feared criminals turn informant? You're about to find out. Helmer Pacho Herrera. Pacho Herrera survived 2 massacres that killed 35 people around him. But in prison, a hug from a trusted advisor ended everything. On a November afternoon in 1998, a visitor disguised as a lawyer stepped through security at Palmyra prison. He walked across the yard and headed toward the soccer field where inmates were relaxing under the sun. Among them was Herrera, once a top figure in the Cali cartel. The visitor smiled, opened his arms as if greeting an old friend, and pulled him into a hug. Then came the flash of steel. A pistol appeared and 7 shots echoed across the prison yard. Herrera dropped instantly, dead before he hit the ground. Born in 1951 in Palmyra, Colombia, a quiet city in Valle del Cauca. Nothing in his childhood suggested the dangerous path ahead. He studied technical maintenance in high school, later moved to the United States and worked as a jeweler. From the outside, it looked like a modest life, far from the bloody world he would one day help shape. By the late 1970s, Herrera had already stepped into the cocaine trade. Arrested twice in New York for distribution, he proved himself connected and ambitious. When the Cali cartel was expanding, his calm personality and disciplined approach caught their attention. Unlike Pablo Escobar's Medellín cartel, which thrived on chaos, Cali operated like a corporation. Herrera fit their model perfectly. By 1983, he was inside. His role was strategic, not flashy. He opened smuggling routes through Mexico, managed laundering networks, and oversaw production that moved thousands of kilos. The coca base came from Peru and Bolivia, refined in Colombian labs shielded by armed groups like FARC and M19. Herrera was one of the architects of this empire, yet he stayed invisible to the public. While Escobar chased fame, Herrera thrived in the shadows. But invisibility only lasts so long. In 1990, gunmen disguised as soldiers opened fire on a soccer crowd. 18 people died, but Herrera walked away. A year later, attackers hit a resort. 17 more were killed. Yet again, Herrera escaped. Both attacks were blamed on Escobar's Medellín cartel, retaliation in the bloody war with Cali. Twice, Herrera survived when dozens around him did not. By 1996, the pressure had shifted. Instead of running, Herrera surprised everyone by surrendering to Colombian authorities. Some believed he had a deal worked out. Others thought he was simply buying time. His initial sentence was less than 7 years, later stretched to 14. Even then, the punishment seemed light for a man who had overseen billions in cocaine shipments. The United States demanded extradition, but Colombia refused. Inside prison, Herrera reinvented himself. He studied, organized sports, and even reported his half-brother for trafficking, allegedly to reduce his sentence. But behind that facade, rumors swirled. Whispers claimed he was cooperating with the DEA, feeding information on the Norte del Valle cartel. If true, it explained both his reduced punishment and why he became a marked man. 2 years later, the rumors caught up to him. Rafael Angel Uribe Serna, once one of Herrera's trusted advisors, entered Palmyra prison dressed as a lawyer. He approached Herrera during a soccer game, hugged him, and fired 7 rounds into his chest. Some said he acted drunk. Others insisted he had been forced to finish a hit he had failed once before. But the simplest explanation was the most dangerous one. Herrera had outlived his usefulness. He survived 2 massacres that killed 35 people around him. But in prison, it only took 1 betrayal and 7 bullets to erase him from the cartel world forever. James Whitey Bulger. On the morning of October 30th, 2018, James Whitey Bulger rolled into USP Hazleton, a prison already infamous for its violence. By nightfall, he was gone. The attack was merciless. Inmates slipped a heavy padlock into a sock and swung until his skull caved. They smashed his face so badly that the guards almost didn't recognize him. Some say they tried to rip his eyes out, others whispered they wanted to cut out his tongue. A gruesome punishment reserved for informants. Was he truly the ruthless gangster everyone feared, or was he nothing more than a rat hiding behind power? Locals called it Southie, a working-class neighborhood where kids grew up tough and the streets became their teacher. By his teenage years, Bulger was already in and out of trouble. Arrests for delinquency stacked up before he could even shave. By his mid-20s, he was robbing banks and doing time in some of America's harshest prisons, including the Rock itself, Alcatraz. When he finally walked free, he wasn't a kid anymore. He was sharp, hardened, and ambitious. In the world of Boston's underbelly, he rose fast. By the late 1970s, Bulger was running the Winter Hill Gang. Under his watch, they weren't just neighborhood thugs anymore. They had their hands in everything. Drugs, extortion rackets, loan sharking, and smuggling operations that stretched across New England. If there was money to be squeezed, Whitey had a hand in it. But behind the image of a ruthless mob boss was a man playing a much riskier game. At the very same time Bulger was building his empire, his childhood friend John Connolly was climbing ranks inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation. By 1975, Connolly brought him an offer that sounded almost too good to be true. Feed the Bureau information about the Italian mafia, and in return, they'd shield him. For the FBI, this was a strategy. The Italians were their top target, and if that meant cutting deals with Irish gangsters, so be it. For Bulger, it was perfect cover. With federal agents on his side, he became untouchable. Investigations disappeared, raids were tipped off, and rivals somehow ended up dead. One of his own men once considered turning informant. The Bureau leaked that detail straight back to Bulger, and not long after, that man was gone. From the outside, Bulger looked unstoppable. But every deal with the government tightened the rope around his neck. Word began to leak that he wasn't just a gangster. He was playing both sides. In mob culture, there's nothing worse than that. Being called a rat is a stain you can't wash away. And whether it was true or not, the whispers grew louder. By the early 1990s, the Drug Enforcement Administration was closing in. Connolly tipped Whitey off, and just like that, he vanished. For 16 years, he lived like a ghost. His face appeared on most wanted lists, second only to Osama bin Laden. The mystery only fed his legend. Where was Whitey Bulger? The answer turned out to be anticlimactic. In 2011, authorities found him living quietly in Santa Monica, California, with his longtime girlfriend. Inside their apartment, they uncovered guns, fake identifications,